Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video we're going to be working on an outdoor cedar grill station for a Weber grill. So the first step, since I'm using all rough cut cedar, I had to make my cuts that I needed. Also ran all my pieces through my table saw to make all the 2x4s the perfect 3.5 inches, and then also ran them through the planer to get everything planed down to where I needed it. Some of the, coming off the saw, some of the cedar is a little bit thicker on some ends and whatnot. But while we have a second, please, if you're watching this video, like and subscribe to the channel. It greatly helps me out. As we're gaining steam towards a much bigger channel, and we'll have, I'll be working on my house stuff here in the next few weeks. Sink vanities, bed frames, dressers, islands, all that will be upcoming. So I used 2.5 inch pocket holes for all the 2x4s. Once I got the pocket holes drilled, I went back and I sanded everything with a 40 grit sandpaper. Later in the video, before we applied the polyurethane, I went over the whole thing in a 300 grit sandpaper, just get everything smooth. So we start with the base. So this is virtually the front of the grill area. Attach the two side 2x4s to the bottom piece. Then you kind of see there, you kind of make a square. The top ones that go up need a inch pocket hole so that you can later come back and attach the top. You can always just put screws to the top, as you can see here, me doing the pocket holes for the pieces that go underneath. And then, so this is the very back legs. They're going to be a little bit longer than the fronts. I have all the dimensions and all the cuts needed that I think you would need, that you can't figure it out on your own. Linked in the description below, as well as with the items that I use. So this is the bottom piece, 2x4. Like I said, you're just making virtually the frame of the piece itself. I used these wheels to make the whole bench mobile. All of them have the stop brake on the wheel, so that helps out greatly. So here's the piece. This is the middle back. Make sure you line that off so where it's directly in the middle. Or if you want your cabinet or grill to one of the sides, you can always move that around. So here, this is the back, just kind of like a more or less a support piece for the back where the cabinet will go. Same thing, pocket holes everywhere. Just make sure that you get your right lengths. Some of this cedar that I'm working with is 1 inch, some of it's 1.5 inches. So I'm more or less set up for using pocket holes that are 3/4 of an inch. That's what I usually work with. I hardly ever work with cedar, minus building swings, which I don't use pocket holes for swings. So this is my first project with cedar with using pocket holes. So the next step, once you get the little middle support piece there, is to put a longer piece, pretty much acting as a almost like a backsplash to a kitchen. So this step is the underneath the little shelving area. I just separated these three. These are all just 1x6s, spread out evenly. Here I just ran some support beams underneath the top, and as well underneath the bottom. This is more or less helps the rigidity of the whole piece, if I said that right, and also kind of helps hold everything together as well. The more the better. Here is the front piece. Like I said, this will be lined up with the back piece. Make sure that the supports underneath it are set in the right place. This will actually be your cabinet side will go on that support piece that my hand was about to touch. So here I'm doing all the cabinets. This is just rinse and repeat. Measure what the size square that you need, and then pocket holes, rinse and repeat. Pretty self-explanatory on the back side and then the two sides. This one in particular, I use just the 2.5 inch pocket holes to go down into the piece. Just kind of help everything hold still. And here you can see all around. I actually ended up moving that left 2x4 over about 1/2 inch because you see that little big gap to the side. So that was one minor change that I had. Then I also, therefore I had to move the underneath support beam over just a little bit so that the left side cabinet would sit down on top of it. So as you can see, all 3 sides are done. I'll do a little walk around video in just a second. This is for the bottom shelf, just some support brackets, just some 1.25 inch torch screws. Here's all 3 shelves, the kind of the interior of how it all sits in there. Look at the outside, perfectly clean. Inside you're not going to see. So the bottom shelf, I just used some 1.25 inch screws and some finish nails to put all those down. Same way with the middle shelf, I used the same bracket idea that I had for the bottom shelf. So that it's, find the middle, put your shelf in there, or wherever you want the shelf. You can always raise it up or down. Use these finish nails to attach the middle shelf so that it doesn't go anywhere. And then onto the top. So the top, the whole bench is 5 foot long. The rubber grill requires a 22-inch hole. So here I just found the center of the hole where I wanted it to go. Put me a screw in, put me a little piece of speaker wire, is what that is. Found my radius and then traced out my hole there. Then I came back and then I put where I found out where I need the pocket holes on the outsides of the circle so that it has the most support that it possibly can. Then the step after this, once you get all of those attached, you can still see where you need to cut out. I came back with my jigsaw. Once I had everything I needed it, came back, cut me out the circle that I needed. Once all that is done, I would actually suggest moving this. I centered mine perfectly in the center. I'd probably suggest moving it forward, as forward as you can go. This is the first time I've done this, so the next step is the underneath brackets. These are not necessary. It just adds a little bit more support where the grill will go itself. And then once you get those brackets on, you can flip the top over, and those pocket holes I'd mentioned previously in the video that were going to be made to attach the top. This is where those came into play. To hold the top down, you can also, like I said, use screws to the top. Sanded the whole piece down with a 40 grit sandpaper, and then worked my way up to 300. Once I got that done, once I got the whole thing sanded, I used some heat-resistant, fireproof tape. Just found on Amazon. Said I'll link all that stuff below. Thought I could initially wrap the whole thing in one strip, but I ended up having to go back and cut. I just cut it into pieces, just random lengths, just wherever I felt like it needed to be cut. Used the knife, scissors, cut that just so I make sure that the cedar, is protected as well as it can be. And then once I got all the tape around the whole diameter of the circle, I came back with a staple gun, which is not necessary. I just felt like it would, help hold with this thing getting rained on. If it gets rained on and whatnot, just to help hold all this down. So I came back with a staple gun, shot it on the inside and also on the top side. I guess you could use a finish nail there too. Then I came back with some Minwax Spar polyurethane, one coat around the whole entire piece. It really brings the color out in the cedar. As you can see, it makes a world of a difference, and it looks 10 times better in person than what it does in this video. I'll come back after this dries and I will put a second coat of polyurethane over the top. So one coat, you could sand it down with like some 2000 grit sandpaper. Second coat, and then the doors, I'm going to use 4 hinges, 4 gate hinges, 2 handles, and 2 door locks. It's not in the video because I figured that was pretty self-explanatory. But here you go. The piece is virtually done. Mine is putting the doors on. You can leave it like this, or you can follow up, put the doors on. But hope y'all enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more.